Hi Adams, it's Miss Kovarik, and I am here with chapter 9 of our Middle Ages text, and here is your vocabulary for this chapter. So an encounter is a noun, and it's an unexpected and difficult meeting. A truce is a noun, an agreement to stop fighting. A negotiation is a noun, a conversation between people trying to reach an agreement. Mighty is an adjective, having great size or strength. Indeed is an adverb, without any question. Pestilence is a noun, and that's a deadly disease. Perish is a verb, to die or be destroyed. Multitude is a noun, and that is a large number of things or people. And unravel is a verb, and it means to come undone or fall apart. So chapter 9 is called A Changing World, and our big question for today is, how are our lives today affected by things people created or invented during the Middle Ages? The Middle Ages lasted for more than 1,000 years. Wars occurred, kings and queens ruled, and a deadly disease killed 1/3 of the population of Europe. People lived their lives, seasons came and went, and history was made. Those days are long gone, but the people who lived long ago have touched our lives. Many ideas, laws, inventions, and important decisions made in the Middle Ages still affect our lives today. Certain key events help define the Middle Ages. You have already heard about many of them. The 100 Years' War is another. This war began when one man claimed to be the true king of another land. This time it was the English king Edward III, the great-great-grandson of King John. He claimed to be the rightful king of France. The 100 Years' War was not one war, but rather a series of military encounters that began in 1337 and ended in 1453 CE. Between the battles and sieges were truces and negotiations and periods of peace. And this is a scene from the 100 Years' War. This is the outcome of the 100 Years' War. And the outcome was that France held onto a great deal of land. So this shows us that this is the English territory, and the blue is the French territory. When this war began, France was probably the most powerful kingdom in Europe. People did not expect this war to last long. The English, however, made good use of their skillful archers. Many of these archers used longbows. This powerful weapon helped the English archers defeat the French knights on the battlefields of France. One good example was the famous Battle of Agincourt. On October 25, 1415 CE, a mighty French army faced a much smaller English army. The English archers with their longbows could not be overpowered by the French soldiers. Although this was indeed a great victory for the English, France won the war in the end. They held on to almost all of the lands that the English had hoped to control. Out of wars such as this one, a stronger sense of nationalism developed. People fought and died for their king and for the land they belonged to. Joan of Arc. France won the 100 Years' War. This might not have happened if it had not been for the bravery of a young girl. Her name was Joan of Arc, and this is her story. Joan was born into a peasant family in eastern France in 1412 CE. She lived a simple life. She did not go to school and never learned to read or write. During her childhood, the 100 Years' War was raging. The mighty French army had not been able to defeat the English. This war caused hardship and poverty in France. And this is a portrait of Joan of Arc from the 1400s. When Joan was 13 years old, she began to have visions and to hear voices. Joan believed that God was speaking to her. These experiences continued for several years. When Joan was 17 years old, the English burned her village of Domremy. Joan heard the voices again. This time she believed that God was telling her to lead the soldiers of France to victory against the English. This is a photograph of Joan riding into battle. Joan traveled to a nearby town where she told the governor of the town that she had a message for the Dauphin. The Dauphin was next in line to the French throne. Incredibly, the governor agreed to allow Joan to speak to the Dauphin. Joan convinced the Dauphin to give her a sword, a horse, and some soldiers. She was able to free the town of Orleans from English control and helped to ensure that the Dauphin was crowned King Charles the Seventh. This is Joan of Arc entering the town of Orleans. But in another battle, Joan was captured by the English. She was accused of being a heretic and was found guilty in a trial. As a punishment, she was put to death. And this is Joan being captured by the English army. The Black Death. Some historians have concluded that traders who had been trading in the Middle East brought the plague to Europe. This first outbreak in the 600s was the most terrible of all. It is estimated that at least 1/3 of the population of Europe died during this outbreak. The plague existed throughout much of Europe, but it arrived in England in 1348 CE. This terrible disease created a sense of terror. It spread throughout England and eventually made its way into Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. Carried by infected fleas that lived on rodents, it spread quickly through the dirty towns and cities. It affected every level of society. Nobles as well as serfs were struck down by this terrible disease. The plague returned at least 8 times in the 1300s and another 14 times in the 1400s. This is a map showing the spread of the Black Death. The following account of the plague was written down by a man named Henry Knighton. Henry Knighton was a canon or member of the church in Leicester, England, and this is what he said in 1348 CE. The dreadful pestilence penetrated the sea-coast by Southampton and came to Bristol, and there almost the whole population of the town perished, as if it had been seized by sudden death. For few kept their beds more than 2 or 3 days, or even half a day. Then this cruel death spread everywhere around, following the course of the sun, and there died at Leicester in the small parish of St. Leonard, more than 380 persons in the parish of Holy Cross, 400 in the parish of St. Margaret's, Leicester 700, and so in every parish a great multitude. All kinds of changes. People fought wars differently by the end of the Middle Ages than they had earlier. Cannons and firearms changed what happened on the battlefields of Europe. Skilled archers and mounted knights were no match for such devastating weapons. The machinery of war was changing and becoming even more deadly. This is showing cannons being used during the siege of Orleans. Another significant occurrence in the Middle Ages was the growth of towns and cities. This development transformed European society. As more and more people moved from the countryside to seek employment elsewhere, the lord's role changed. Over time, townspeople were no longer subject to his authority. The ties of feudalism began to unravel. In addition, exploration and trade opened people's eyes to other places, ideas, and cultures. The invention of the compass and a navigational tool called the astrolabe enabled soldiers to embark on even more daring voyages. And this is an astrolabe from the 1400s. The invention of the printing press in 1450 CE without a doubt transformed European society. The ability to produce books, pamphlets, and newspapers helped to spread knowledge and new ideas. Books, once a luxury, gradually became more affordable. The desire and need to know how to read and write grew among different social groups. And this is the printing press from 1498 CE. All right, number 1 says the 100 Years' War was one single battle between England and France. Number 2, what does it mean to have nationalism? Number 3, Joan of Arc's family was very wealthy. Number 4, who is the Dauphin? Number 5, the spread of the plague caused terror in Europe during the Middle Ages. Number 6, what does the word perished mean in this sentence? Number 7, there were not many people that died from the plague during the Middle Ages. Number 8, how did fighting in wars change during the Middle Ages? And number 9, which was not a change that happened during the Middle Ages? Remember to go back into that text. You can rewind the video to find the section you need to answer the questions. I will see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, Adams.